Firstly, declaring an interest. Judith and I have worked together before, and Cube, who Judith sits within, if that's the right term, is very close to MEI as well. So, what Judith and her team have been developing is a very interesting new concept, a new, a whole new offer to the market. Anything with the words E in it seems to catch people's attention. Because we saw E1 yesterday, the powerboat racing, if you remember rightly as well. So Judith, I think big open questions designed to give you bandwidth rather than me ask you two precise questions. So let's talk about the journey first of where did the idea come from, and what's it about, and where is it trying to go?
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your interest today. It's very good to see you all. So the journey started about 2 years ago in an office in Worcester in the north of England. I work with a company called Cube International, and Cube International is an events management company and an international partnership company that has been in operation for over 15 years, working with major events from Formula One to the Commonwealth Games next year as a master licensee. So they have a lot of experience in developing and working with international events over many years. And the Ebike Grand Prix Series, I suppose, was born ultimately from the experience that was gained within the international marketplace over many years, but also from a passion within one of my colleagues for cycling, Carl Thompson. And Carl and Andy, the chairman of the Cube International, and a broader international team of stakeholders had come together to devise an international sporting cycling event. The marketplace over the last, certainly the last 3 years, but over the last certainly 5 years has changed dramatically in that time. COVID has introduced so many different ways of thinking and delivering events, and also obviously the climate crisis has created a specific need in terms of what events are and their formatting. So the e-bike feeds into a lot of those gaps, or fills a lot of those gaps, insofar as it's single mobility. So it's good from a sustainability point of view, and also that there's it's a high-speed racing event, technically using bikes. So then it was born, and I was introduced maybe within 6 months of that to develop the prospect and how it would be brought out to the international market, and to input on that, and also then obviously to reach out to the international market, to identify suitable host cities and suitable partners, and ultimately make contact with lovely people like you all across the world in all continents, and simply see if there is an interest in hosting the event and collaborating. And it has been a lovely journey, I have to say, because we have an event and a concept that's very much on point, and that has a serious and robust sustainability agenda. I found I have been pushing open doors and having a lot of conversations in a lot of areas. So where we are at the moment with the series is we have 4 agreements in place with cities around the world, many conversations ongoing at the minute, and our first event will be taking place. It's a showcase event in Dubai in November.
And in addition to sort of the race aspects of it, Judith, there's a wider agenda that you are offering in addition to the actual race itself.
Sure.
Do you want to talk about that sustainability aspect?
Sure. So there are 3 elements to the e-bike Grand Prix series. Number 1 is the event and the sport itself. Number 2 is our sustainable transformative mobility agenda. And number 3 is our Global Host Cities Alliance. So technically, first of all, we want to come into cities around the world and run a 5 to 7 day event that has 2 days of elite e-bike racing in the city centre. The sustainability programme will be held in the host city over 3 years. So we engage with the host city over those 3 years and work with you across those 3 years. And then the Global Host Cities Alliance is technically the bridge that we are forming between our host cities. So we will be creating a forum of sorts so that our host cities, from Busan to a city in China at the moment, and Budapest, possibly Johannesburg. We'll be connecting then and creating a networking forum of sorts. So going back to the event itself, it's a 5-day event, 5 to 7 days in the city centre. 2 days of that is elite racing, and the other 5 to 7 days is a wider festival. Within that, we would have an expo and a summit where the sustainability agenda would be strong, and then the rest of that week would be spent working with the host city to identify where your interests are, where your strategies are, and how you can activate within the event itself. The sustainability program and how that works, we're not sustainability experts by any means, but we have engaged sustainability experts, Ricardo, to deliver that for us. So Ricardo are internationally renowned sustainability company who are already out there in the marketplace working with host cities, and they will be leading our agenda, sitting down with our host city partners, looking at where they currently are, where the gaps are perhaps, and where our event can help to fill those gaps. And that may be by way of using our television broadcast to maybe amplify messaging, or it could be sitting down and look at practical initiatives that are happening in the host city that we can either tap into, fill gaps, or simply work with you to innovate and create something entirely new.
Great, and just I know just to fill the picture in, so to speak. Obviously, it's a new event and skill set. So, are there currently racing e-bikers out there, or are they just passionate people who like to go fast and they've never had a place to go to prove how good they are?
I'm sure there are, but no, technically no. So this is an entirely new sport. The bikes, first of all, the teams and the athletes, if you think along the lines of Formula One, our athletes will be in team formats. It's a franchise situation. So there will be 10 teams of 8 men and women, so 4 men and 4 women as part of that. And they will be racing on bespoke e-bikes that are specially developed for the series. By BMC in Switzerland, in Lausanne here, actually, interestingly. But yes, so the bikes have not been seen. We'll be racing at speeds of up to 75 kilometres per hour, possibly higher. We have another test day to see how fast they will go. And using pedalic bikes, which simply means that you have to pedal to generate the power. And in terms of where the competition comes in for the athletes, there's the battery power is finite, so they will have possibly around about 25 minutes of battery power, but it's a 1-hour race. So the strategy and the winning is about strategy, basically. Within the race itself, it will be around about a 2.5 kilometre circuit, ideally, although it can be up to 5 kilometres. And within that, we will instate what we're calling a power zone. So it's technically a fan zone, but we build an installation. In Dubai, for example, we will be building the mountain, as we call it. So that is a 25-degree incline. And we will come into Dubai. We have identified the region that it will be. It will be in City Walk, actually, if anybody is familiar with the city. And then there's a car park area that we will use that will become the fan zone. And within that will be the mountain. So the mountain is where we create a physical challenge so that the teams are forced to decide on whether they use their battery power to get up that hill or whether they reserve that battery power for the final push. So winning, because the battery power is finite, winning is about strategy. It's about athletic ability and strength, and it's about using the battery power wisely. And part of that decision-making process is very interesting. So one of our key pillars is technology, and we're working with PMY to develop rider biometrics so that as riders are riding simply on the bikes, that there's information coming back to the manager of the team from heart rate information to powertrain information, what battery power is left, what speed they're going at, all of that to allow the manager of the team, who will be communicating with the riders at all times, to decide who is the stronger athlete at that point, who's got enough left in them to get it over the line and to win the race. So it's it's a lot more technical than that, and I have a lot of information I can share, obviously, on the finer details of all of that.
Great. Well, I think that you've brought alive, what that is about and the wider aspect to it as well. These host cities will inevitably ask you, what does it take to host you? So, apart from the fact interest, whatever, broadly, and I know it will vary, and certain things might want to be talked on in a more closed environment. But if that famous word broadly is good enough, broadly, what would it take to host one of your events?
Yeah, so, well, it's the obvious question. So fundamentally, obviously, there needs to be an aspiration to work with our STM programme. It's not just a sustainability policy. It is a fundamental 3-year programme. So we want to engage for 3 years, and we want to send our consultants, Ricardo, to your city to sit down for you to nominate stakeholders within the city who can basically decide if and put a plan together for 3 years. As long as there's that aspiration, that's the foundation of what we require. After that, of course, we're asking for an investment from our host cities. And I can go into those details now if you wish.
I think if you want to give them the headlines, I think that would be helpful.
Sure.
Yeah.
So fundamentally, there are 3 models. Model number 1 is an investment of £1 million per year. And within that, Cube International, or Ebike, our team will go into the city and take responsibility for running the event. Everything outside of road closures and security and a couple of other things. But beyond that, we take the risk, we run the event, and we have the commercial revenues from it then as well, obviously, to make up for the shortfall. Our next package, and these are all very flexible, by the way, our second middle packages are rights only, and that's £1.5 million. And you're simply buying the concept. So you're buying the concept up to the point where we deliver our teams to the host city, and when it gets to the host city, according to our specific specifications, you deliver the event using your teams and your resources in the city. And the other one is the turnkey model, our original one, which is £3 million, and that is where we simply bring the event, bring everything to the city, we run the event, we deliver the event, and we will always seek the host city's support in terms of road closing and security and health and safety as well.
Right, so you've got those 3 sort of discrete officers. So I think that you need some point of reference, and I think that was the point of that question, Judith. What haven't we talked about that you would like to communicate to these folks rather than me come up with my bland questions?
Sure. I just think generally that we have stepped into a new space with the Ebike Grand Prix series, and it's a really exciting new space to be in. I think, as I said, that a gap has been created within the events industry by circumstances over the last 3 years, and it has caused, as you and I discussed recently, the events industry to pivot. And there are events like ours and a number of others that are really filling that gap, where it's more about partnerships and collaborations with our host cities and simply working together to create an event that benefits both. Legacy is a massive issue. We're very serious about that. And I suppose there was one aspect, Dennis, that we didn't touch on, and that is that when we come to our host cities, we have our television production company with us. And we already have dealings in place internationally at the moment with 60 network providers all across the world who will be broadcasting the event from each city. Within that coverage, again, in the spirit of collaboration, we very much want to work with our host cities to sit down, understand your strategy, understand where your positioning is internationally and what your aspirations are for your destination, and how we can feed into that, how we can use our television distribution and our coverage to relay those messages, and also to tell the stories of our host cities. We're working in very different continents and cities. We will be in China, we will be in Istanbul, we will be in Dubai. Accra in Ghana is another one that we have in a partnership at the moment. Very, very different cities, and we embrace that because we want to tell the stories of the cities. We want to understand, partner, and then use our event as a platform for I suppose achieving those goals, using our international broadcast to promote those messaging and to simply to use it for the city's advantage internationally. The television broadcasting, I should say, will be edited and free to air and free to distribute as well. So we're not. This is in our first 3 years. We're very much about establishing our event, growing our brand and growing our profile, and similarly with our host cities. So we have a very specific remit there. But fundamentally, our one phrase is that we want to create cleaner, greener, healthier cities. And that is our strapline and our mandate. And we feel that we have got a great platform with the Ebike series to do that.
Well, great, Judith. That was very, very clear. There is a question, so I now have to go and deliver the microphone.
Hello, I'm Emily from Montreal. I work for a production event company, so pretty much it's not the same business model, but quick question for you. Can you share a little bit of your data in terms of, reach? Because you talked about the broadcast, and we can say broadcast and just plug some words, but in terms of data, do you have?
Yeah, so I know from the networks that we've been speaking with, they're all across the world at the minute, so it is international. In terms of figures and data, the broadcast will be delivered by Sunset and Vine, which is a UK company who would work with the Premier League football and the Olympics. And at the moment, we're looking at 250 million in terms of an audience, and that will be across television and across international markets, 60 international markets. The specifics of that will become known whenever we have our draft calendar in place. And then that will enable us to go out into those specific markets and say there's an interest here. For example, Dallas is like to be our next signing. So because we will now have the US market engaged, then our Sunset and Vine will then go out and speak with American networks and distribute there. So it's in a state of flux and will continue to be, I suppose, until we have our draft calendar in place. And we hope to have a draft calendar in place by the end of June.
Okay, interesting. I got another question actually. Maybe I missed this part or this information, but who's participating? I mean, are you coming with the writers or the teams and everything? Are they professionals? Okay.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So yes, they will be franchise teams who will be participating. They will be accomplished athletes in some form, either having been accomplished or had acquired a championship. And also they will be from the disciplines of cycling and motorcycling. One other aspect I didn't mention is that we will be under the governance of FIM, the Federation for Motorcycling. So we'll be governed by them. However, this is very much about cycling and about motorcycling. It's filling the gap in between, and it's traversing, I suppose, both markets at the moment. So those teams will be made up with a variety of athletes from both disciplines, but accomplished and known athletes from those disciplines. At the moment, we're in the process of the franchising, so there's conversations going on, and of course there's an opportunity to franchise a team at the moment, but we're in pursuit of 10 teams of 8, 4 of which would be men and 4 would be women. They will be touring, yes, across the year, and they will be signed to us for 3 years. They must sign for 3 years because that is our initial time span.
Motorcycle federation, because it's just like not the same kind of idea behind. It's completely different. They use like gasoline and your e-bike.
Yeah, it's a very good question. So when we started out on this journey, we thought we would be under the auspices of UCI. And at a stage last year, UCI and FIM had got together, saying that there was development within the marketplace, and made the decree that bikes that are power assisted, that are riding at speeds of 25 kilometres or higher, would fall under the remit of FIM. So that was determined between them. So when we started out, like I say, I thought we would have been UCI, very much a cycling sport, but we totally embrace the space that we're in because it's brand new, and obviously it is so brand new that it has necessitated the spawning nearly of a new discipline and a new sport.
Well, thanks for the great question, Jude. Thank you for the very comprehensive interview. I'll come with a sign, otherwise I'll be told off. So thank you very much indeed. I think obviously there's, as I say, people keep repeating, a lot of people listening online. So I think the message as always would be, if you've got questions of detail, get hold of Judith, very approachable person, as you can see. As I know, having worked for her, she's utterly approachable. And do spend some time trying to understand the levels of detail below it, because there are levels in addition to the actual racing part, as you very eloquently explained, Judith. So thank you very much for coming to join us.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you everyone for your attention.